I 33 years old, have known my wife 31 years old all my life, but she and I hadn't started dating until about 10 years ago. We went to high school together, though we weren't really in the same circles. I was more athletic and involved in sports, while she was a bit of a bookworm who spent her full time in the library. I hate to say it, but I hardly even noticed her in high school. However, at a reunion, we ran into each other, and we really hit it off. I didn't even care about any of the other classmates in the room, I just wanted to talk to her. We ended up dating, and a year later, we got married. It all happened fast, but we felt like it was right. For the past 10 years of our marriage, we have never questioned that. A little over a year ago, my sister-in-law was tragically diagnosed with lung cancer. The entire family was shattered by the news, especially my brother. Unfortunately, my sister-in-law wasn't able to fight off the cancer, and she passed away about 3 months after the diagnosis. It was a horrible tragedy for the entire family, and there was a hole left in our hearts. My wife has always been a very gentle, caring person, so she took it upon herself to make sure my brother was taken care of while he was in mourning. She would make food and bring it over to his house, make sure he was eating, wash his clothes, and ensure he had someone to talk to. From the way it sounded, she was a rock for him in the hardest time of his life. Never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that the two of them were sleeping together, but I was so wrong. The first instance where I noticed something was off was when I showed up at my brother's house one day after my wife had told me she was going over there. I had a key, and I never knocked on his door when I went to visit, so I just walked in and hollered for them both. It took a minute for them to come and meet me, but they both came from the part of the house where the bedrooms were. Genuinely, I did not think anything could have been going on. I asked them what was going on, and they told me that they were just tidying up the room. The three of us spent the rest of the night together at his house. I noticed that they were sitting somewhat close on the couch, but I didn't think much of it. I trusted them. One night, my wife and I were both at home. She got a text message from my brother, telling her that she would be going over there the following day and helping him go through some of his wife's belongings. I didn't have a problem with it, but I was starting to feel like she was too much of a crutch for him. I suggested that maybe instead of going over there, we should offer to pay for therapy for him. I figured it might be nice for him to have a professional to talk to. She just brushed it off and said that she would talk to him about it and see what he said the following day. Now I knew that packing up some of his wife's belongings and figuring out what to do with them would be a big task. That is a big step in moving forward for anyone. I was a little hurt that he hadn't asked me to help him, but again, my wife had been a major help to him since his wife passed. While I was driving home from work, I figured it might be nice to stop by and offer to help. I grabbed some takeout food and made my way over to my brother's house. When I unlocked the door to go in, I was about to holler and get their attention, but I heard some strange noises. They were unmistakably sex noises. I couldn't believe I was hearing something like that when my brother had just lost his wife. On top of that, he was there with my wife. I simply walked out of the house. I was shocked at the time and didn't know how to process what I had just heard. I tried to rationalize it, thinking that maybe he had someone else there, and it wasn't my wife. But when I got home and saw that she wasn't there, I knew that wasn't the case. I played it cool, thinking about how I wanted to move forward. I was 100% going to leave my wife, and I was going to cut my brother off. Both of them completely shattered my trust. My wife returned home about an hour later and immediately went to take a shower. While she was in there, I walked into the bathroom and started brushing my teeth. It wasn't unusual for us to use the bathroom at the same time. That's one of the perks of married life, I guess. Her phone was on the counter, so I grabbed it while she was showering. I looked through her messages with my brother and found dozens of text messages where they had both been recounting the times they shared together. My brother was frequently asking her to come over because he wanted to feel her again. I scrolled back to around the time when my wife first started going to visit him. I found messages where they confessed their feelings for each other. Apparently, my brother had put the first feelers out for the relationship. He told my wife that he had always had feelings for her in high school, but he was too nervous to ask her out. She told him that she had felt the same way. She went so far as to tell him that sometimes when she was sleeping with me, she would be imagining that it was him. I took screenshots of the messages, and I sent them to myself before deleting them from her phone. I put it back down on the counter so she would never know that I even had them. I hated them both, and I wanted them to suffer for what they did. As angry as I was that they betrayed me, I couldn't believe that they would disrespect my brother's late wife the way that they had. They were both unbelievably selfish, and they needed to be called out for it. I gathered several of my family members, mostly the core family who had the biggest impact on me and my brother's lives. My brother and my wife were there, sitting right next to each other. We had a peaceful dinner together, and toward the end, I just outright told everybody what I discovered. My brother and wife tried to make it seem like I was crazy, and nothing was going on. Then I pulled out my phone and read off quotes from the screenshots. They looked horrified as I read the messages. My mom asked my brother if what I said was true, and I could hear the sadness in her voice. Everybody yelled at both of them for how disrespectful it was to my sister-in-law. It hadn't even been 6 months since she had passed away, and he had started an affair with his sister-in-law. Everybody asked questions, and we found out that the affair started 2 months after his wife died. It was unbelievable to hear. Everybody was yelling at them and telling them that they were selfish and cold, and I didn't want to see them. My parents didn't think that I handled it the right way, but they were glad that I told everyone about it. They had all been feeling very sorry for him for his grief, but he was clearly not mourning in the same way as them. In the end, I divorced my wife, and I'm happy now without her. She didn't ask for anything in the divorce, and if she did, I had enough evidence of her affair that she wouldn't have gotten it. Almost all of my family is extremely angry with my brother, and he hasn't been invited to any gatherings or events since they found out. I don't know if people are going to come around and forgive him or if he's going to stay in the doghouse. All I know is that I never want to see either of them again.